So here's where we're at with the Arduino Express. I have the motor control board made. The IR sensor should be located here. I was having trouble and I was trying to diagnose the problem. I thought maybe my IR sensor might have been bad, so I yanked it. I did originally put my chip on upside down like a dummy. It's hard when you're flipping the board backwards and forwards, looking at it upside down and right side up, but I may have burnt that chip. I tried putting it back in the correct direction and then I was getting all sorts of trouble. So I went ahead and put a new chip in correctly, but I'm getting the same sorts of trouble. It appears to be in my H-bridge somewhere. I don't know where. Schematically it is correct. It's just right. I don't know what else to say. When I call for pins 9 or 10, which should be the two appropriate opposing resistors or transistors, it's showing an output voltage of 1.4 volts, but that's on a digital meter, which is maybe not correct. I may be getting 1.4 volts, but I'm getting no current whatsoever. If you try grounding an LED between ground and that 1.4 volts, I get absolutely no light up whatsoever. I plugged my IR sensor back into the analog header that I installed, and I've got a ground rail and a 5 volts rail, so my IR sensor is working appropriately, running off the analog rail. Right now I've got it inputted to A5, and then I've got a pin here coming out of A0 going to a little test motor, and then I've got, of course, it's going to ground back there, and I uploaded a quick sketch, modified the IR demo, and I put in a stop and a play function. So with the remote I can play and make the motor go, and stop and make the motor stop. So as far as I can tell, the Arduino half, or the Boarduino half, or the Clubuino half is working correctly. But I got something going on with the H-bridge, and I really don't know what. So I guess the next step is to maybe yank all that stuff and breadboard it out and see if I can get the H-bridge to work breadboarded through the auxiliary pins. I do have some neat functionality here. When I program, I've got two LEDs. This is the power LED, and my voltage regulator is working really well. It's knocking I got a 12 volt AC adapter going in, and it's not even slightly warm, and it's supplying a good 5 volts. My Atmel chip is not warm at all, and I got a little reset pin up here, and when it resets I get a flash out of my reset LED, which is there to let me know that it's working. I got the FTDI coming from the breakout board. Got a separate header for that. Works great. I can upload all sorts of code to it. Alternately, I can program any of the other digital pins. I can call this high, which would be, this is digital pin 8, which is the first little pin there on the Atmel, or the 14th pin more aptly. I can call digital pin 8 high in a program, and I'll get 5 volts out of that. And I can call any of the other digital pins on this side high and get 5 volts out of them. But these two that are connected to the H bridge, when I call those high, I get like 1.3 volts, and then I'll get 1.3 volts into the collector, and I'll usually get like about half that out of the emitter. I'm sorry, I get 1.3 volts into the base. The collector is reading the 15 volts that it should coming out of my source voltage, but the emitter, nada. Maybe half a volt to 1.5 volts, depending on what I've done. I've never been able to get more than 1.2 volts out of it. I'm just at a loss. I don't know. I guess I need an appropriate schematic, but the H bridge is functioning correctly to a generalized H bridge schematic. And then the Arduino side of it is just like the Clubuino Arduino schematic, or any basic bare bones Arduino schematic. But when you hook pins 9 and 10, or 15 and 16 Atmel wise, to the beginnings of the H in the H bridge, nothing. If you take a jumper from an analog pin and call it high, you'll get 5 volts out of the end of it, and then when you stick it to the base on one of these, boom, 1.3 volts. So I don't know. I got a ground somewhere in the H bridge.